He spoke of how the evil of prejudice can take root and then called upon us to make this a better world, a more compassionate world for all of us. Professor Kemeny was my math professor freshman fall. What I remembered most was his kindness, strength of character, and his love of teaching. He stood amidst the mathematical giants of his time, yet he chose to teach us. He was familiar to me. His family had fled to America in 1940 with the rise of anti-Semitism in Hungary, just as my mother's family had escaped Russia a generation earlier. His final remarks warned us to stand guard against evils he knew all too well. He was 57 when he spoke those words. He passed on at 66, and here we are. Our world is in desperate need of healing. So the question becomes, what can each of us do to honor Professor Kemeny? The award should inspire us all with renewed purpose. How do we find his wisdom here, now, at our own age? It's been exactly 200 days since I received the call from Lynn Gaudette informing me of the award. It took me a while to figure out what was going on. So many in the nonprofit world labor in obscurity. But that is precisely where we need to be investing if we are to build a livable future. In his final remarks, Professor Kemeny took special note of the strength and loyalty of Dartmouth alumni. There are nearly 80,000 of us now, roaming around this girdle of earth. What aren't we capable of doing? Each of us together in our own communities. I chose Dartmouth because of my love of nature and community. I felt it the moment I stepped on this campus. I grew up in what was a fishing village. From 8 to 15, I practically lived in local swamps catching turtles and frogs. I watched as the woods were bulldozed and the lakes and ponds died. I remember the day when no matter where I stood, I could still see a house. I saw the Great South Bay collapse and 6,200 clammers lose their livelihoods from one year to the next. Save the Great South Bay was founded in 2012 at my 35th high school reunion. 10 weeks later to the day, Sandy struck. The organization quickly grew to 15,000, all who cared about the South Shore and about whichever of the 16 villages on the bay where they happened to be from. Things have to be that local. In 2014, I helped a friend with a film called The River Between Us. It's about the Klamath River in Oregon. The film is about how all the various peoples along its 1,200 miles could bury generational hatred for the common good of restoring Klamath. The film triggered the largest environmental restoration project in U.S. history. They're pulling the dams now, with 4 hydroelectric dams being removed so that the salmon could again swim free. With the Long Island Conservancy, my mission is to get everyone involved in habitat restoration, starting in their own yards and in their own towns. There are dozens of native planting groups popping up all over Long Island, and we are connecting them all. We are leading the charge to restore the American chestnut. There were 4 billion of them until the chestnut blight all but wiped them out. We are creating pollinator corridors, reknitting fragmented habitat using new mapping platforms. We are also licensing a very promising technology to combat harmful algal blooms from a startup whose founders are all older than any of us. The Science Museum of Long Island will be receiving our $500 donation. We have been removing acres of invasive plants, replanting native, so that we can offer tours to school and civic groups. We all need to relearn our plants so that we can figure out what belongs and what doesn't, what's native, non-native, or invasive. Local wildlife is depending on us. Everyone, I mean not just Long Islanders, but everybody in this room and indeed everybody in the Dartmouth family has a role to play restoring local nature. Ask yourself, is there a college or university better suited for this mission? I want to encourage all of you to talk about your community's environmental challenges with me. There is so much that needs to be done and done quickly. We all need to be speaking for the trees now, not one lone pine, but a forest. We all need to be shouting together from this dust bank we call Earth. Theodore Geisel, Dartmouth 25, was a SIGEP and therefore a brother. And like me, he lived on the 4th floor of Top Cliff. No surprise he wrote the Lords. It's a Dartmouth story. It was the Onceler who said, unless someone like you cares an awful lot, things aren't going to change. No, they're not. As Margaret Mead put it, however, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has.